Hello everyone, back tuning into today's video. We're going to have a look at the weather next week to 10 days for today's video. So it's going to take us around the 17th of January. We'll have a look at CFSV2 for the next month as well. And I'll bring you up to date with what's happening in the stratosphere over North Pole in terms of the sudden stratospheric warming that we had a few days ago. Before we get on with anything else, though, just going to say a big thank you to our latest patrons. So we now have 53 patrons for Gazworthies, and our latest patron, our 53rd patron, is Nick Major. Nick Major has become Gazworthies' 53rd patron. A big thank you to Nick for becoming our 53rd patron. If you would like to become a patron for Gazworthies, then all you need to do is come to the Gazworthies patron page, and this is it. I'm on the patron page right now. You just come here and sign up for a patron account, and then you can pledge whatever amount of money you would like as an ongoing monthly donation. It can be anything from $1 a month upwards, so it doesn't have to be a large amount of money whatsoever. And by doing that, you become an official patron for Gazworthies, and you're having to pay for the website and keep website online. So a big thank you to all of the patrons, Gazworthies. Big thank you to Nick Major, especially for becoming our 53rd patron. Happy New Year to all of Gazworthies patrons. Of course, alternatively, you might want to just give a one-off donation. If you do, then you can do it through PayPal. So this is the Gazworthies paypal.me page, and again, you just come to this page. Most people got a PayPal account these days, so just sign into that. I mean, pledge whatever amount of money you would like to donate, whatever amount of money you would like to, as a one-off donation. Again, you get a mention video, so when you do it through Patreon or PayPal, you get a shout-out in the videos. We'll say thank you very much for your donation. Unless you would rather stay anonymous, if you would, then please just leave a little note with your donation. And that's all you have to do. So a big thank you to all of the PayPal donors, and a big thank you to all of the patrons for Gazworthies. Something really kind and very special that you are doing for Gazworthies to help us to pay for our content. We're primarily ads funded. We're going to remain ads funded primarily. This is just an added revenue stream, if you like, due to the fact that ad yields are tending to fall year on year for various reasons, like ad blockers and things like that. So over the years, ad revenues are tending to fall away, which means we need to find other revenue streams. So a big thank you to all of the donors, big thank you to all of the patrons, Gazworthies. We will be keeping the content totally free for you to view, so there'll be no idea about going behind paywalls or anything like that. Through PayPal, Patreon, you can actually do exclusive content just for the people that are paying, but I'd rather not go down that line. I want to keep the content totally free for everybody to view it when they want it, when they need it. So we won't be going to pay-per-view or anything like that. So again, big thank you to all the patrons, big thank you to all of the donors, special thank you to Nick Major for becoming our latest patron. So, this has been sent through to us over the weekend. This is from Frank Kromak in Austria, and look at that. Winter really is biting now across many central parts of Europe. Deep snow cover outside Frank's back door. I'm not sure if it's back door or front door, but anyway, a big snowdrift right up against the door there. At Frank's house in Austria, and deep snow cover as well over the hills. Look at that. And Frank was reporting got around 1 metre of snow. This was at the weekend, with more to come. So I should imagine that's piled up even further now over the past day or so. Big thank you to Frank for sending those pictures through. If you would like to have your pictures featured in the videos, then there are various ways you can do it. You can email them to us at gazworthies@gmail.com. You can share them on the Gazworthies comments section at Gazworthies, the website, or you can share them with our social media accounts, Facebook, Twitter. We're on all the social media. We're not on Instagram. Somebody did actually ask me whether We're on Instagram. We aren't yet, but I will be looking into creating an Instagram account. But we're certainly on Twitter. We're on Facebook. We've got Gazworthy's website, comment section. So again, there are various ways that you can share those pictures with us, or you can email them, as Frank has done, to gazworthys@gmail.com. Big thank you to Frank for sending those pictures through and proving that despite the fact that winter 2018-19 so far has been very mild in the UK, it is biting now across many parts of Europe. Now, this is a tweet that I saw yesterday from our good friend Michael Ventrice. So Michael Ventrice is a pro-Met forecaster with Weather Services International. And a split of the stratospheric warming took place yesterday. So that's the last thing we was waiting for from the sudden stratospheric warming. We had, of course, that big warming of the stratosphere starting over Siberia and moving into the North Pole. That happened through the end of December. We reversed the zonal winds. The zonal winds are still in reverse. I'll show you those in a moment. The last thing we was waiting for was a split of the stratospheric polar vortex, and that has taken place. That took place yesterday, as we expected, 5th, 6th of January. That's about when we was thinking it would happen. So this shows the split quite nicely. Michael tweeted this yesterday. You can see two areas of blue indicating the stratospheric polar vortex, one over America, one over Europe just here, and in between we've got these lighter colours, the greens, yellows, and ultimately right over top of North Pole, orange colours. That's indicating the split of the polar vortex at its roots in the stratosphere. And so that's, as I say, the last thing we was waiting for was the split of the polar vortex, and indeed that did occur yesterday. So thank you to Michael for tweeting that and confirming that we split the polar vortex. And of course, we will be keeping the link to Michael's Twitter feed in the description at YouTube. So if you'd like to give Michael Ventrice a follow, then please do that. Michael tweets a lot of very interesting and informative information. As I say, the zonal winds are still in reverse, so this is where we are right now. This is from weatheriscool.com. We're down here, we're well below the all-important zero line, which is just there. So the zonal winds at 10 HPA went into reverse several days ago, still in reverse, and going to stay in reverse actually if we believe the GFS ensembles. Anyway, going to stay in reverse more or less for the next couple of weeks. So this gives us plenty of time to start getting a tropospheric response to this sudden stratospheric warming. I know a lot of you are very disappointed, but we haven't yet seen definitive signs of northern blocking within the model output. But bear in mind, this is still relatively early days really. This sudden stratospheric warming started over Christmas over Siberia, didn't really get into the North Pole until just before New Year, around 29th of December. I think that's the day that it peaked at 10 HPA over the North Pole. Then we reversed the zonal winds through the opening days of January. Didn't split the vortex until yesterday. So this is still relatively early days, really, to be looking for a tropospheric response from a blocking point of view. And I certainly won't be giving up on this just yet. Whilst it is true that not all sudden stratospheric warmings have an impact on the troposphere, a lot of them do, and a lot of them take a little while to do it. So it's very unlikely that we will get an immediate response to this, and it may well be 2 or 3 weeks down the line that we might start seeing some blocking turning up. But again, I really won't give up on this. I won't be too downhearted at this stage if you're looking for colder weather and blocked conditions. Interestingly as well, the thicker green line there that you see just there is actually forecasting a drop-off in the strength of the zonal winds in the second week. So in the next week, it looks like the zonal winds actually lift up a little bit, but do stay in reverse. And then for some reason, they're dropping off. I'm not sure why that is, because there's no real sun stratospheric warming re-emerging again in the second week, I don't think. But anyway, very weak zonal winds look like they're going to continue for the next couple of weeks. And we confirm this again with the ECMWF. This is via the University of Berlin. So again, the blue line here is depicting the zonal wind at 10 HPA. You see we have relatively strong zonal winds earlier in the winter. Then the drop-off came at the end of December while the southern stratospheric warming was going on. Then we go into reverse with the zonal winds as that blue line dips below 0 just there, and we're still in reverse with the solar winds right now, forecasting them to get very close towards neutral by the time we get through to 10 days away, so a little bit of a strengthening, but still generally staying in reverse even up to day 10. At 30 HPA, a little bit lower down, the red line here shows the solar winds at 30 HPA, generally very weak, not quite a reversal at 30 HPA, but very, very weak solar winds there as well. Just proving again that this is a very significant and very major southern stratospheric warming that has taken place. And we still wait and see what the impacts, if any, are going to be. These are the 500 millibar height anomalies for the next week to 10 days from the Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF here on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look at in a moment, is on the bottom. 500 millibars, 80 miles feet is an area in the atmosphere. High pressure, low pressure are being moved around by a jet stream running above. Red extrapolates to high pressure, blue to low pressure. We can see that we've got a deep area of below average heights in the 7 to 10 day time frame, and this is taking us to the middle of January, and actually a little bit beyond the middle of January. We see we've got that area below average heights, low pressure to the east and northeast of the UK. The jet stream is dipping down through Europe as well, so there's a big trough within the 500 millibar flow, meaning that winter, we already know winter is biting in Austria, as is for many northern and eastern parts of Europe, and that will continue to be the case in the next week to 10 days, I think, whilst there might be slightly milder incursions. Overall, this does look like a pretty cold setup now for many northern and eastern parts of Europe. For us in the UK, again, it's a little bit more complicated. We remain close to this ridge of above average height, sitting just to west-southwest of the UK, and so we have more influence from the jet stream, with the jet stream doing something a little bit like that. Actually, that's probably a little bit wrong. So the jet stream is doing something more like that. So we're not far from being on the cold side of the jet, actually. We just need to move this high pressure back out in towards the central part of the Atlantic, and that would allow then the trough of below average heights over Scandinavia, northeast Europe. That would allow the trough to back westwards as well. And then we've got the GFS, of course, and this is what the GFS is showing today. So again, deep trough of below average heights to the north and east of the UK, above average heights in the Atlantic to our west-southwest. A little bit closer to being on the cold side of the jet with the GFS. Actually, that really is very close indeed to starting to pull down really cold northerly winds. And actually, I can tell you, well, we will show you it in a moment, but I can tell you that the GFS today is pulling down some very cold air in the second half of January. You'll see more on that very shortly. This is how the GFS ensembles are looking at Western Supermare. Today, someone's asked me to have a look at the ensemble for Western. So the red line here is the 30-year upper air temperature average for Western Supermare. And we can see that where we're starting off at right now is pretty mild, but the temperatures are going to be dropping over the next couple of days. Then go milder again at the end of the week and into the weekend. Next week's interesting. We see that temperatures drop into next week, going back to the 30-year temperature average. And then looks like overall we're quite cool, really, with the temperatures as we go into the second half of January. That's the 15th of January just there. You can see that the overall trend is to lower the temperature through this second half of January. Not a huge amount of evidence of very cold conditions, although there are some colder outlier members appearing at the end. So quite a few of them actually are going down to between -5 and -10 at 850 HPA. That's pretty cold. Not big freeze cold, not beach to the east cold. For that sort of level of cold, you would go down to below -10, so between -10 and -15. But nevertheless, these are upper air temperatures. But nevertheless, I think the evidence is still there that the second half of January is showing something rather colder. And a big change in precipitation-wise as well. So in the next week to 10 days, again, loads of dry weather up to the 15th of January. It's basically dry all the way for Western. But then after that, into the second half of January, Western Supermare turns much more unsettled with spells of rain heading in from off the Atlantic. So turning colder and wetter in the second half of the month, dare I say it, potentially a little wintry potential in with that. Temperature anomalies from the 7th to the 15th of January, a little bit above average for the UK and Ireland. Much of Northern Europe is also coming out a little bit above average with the temperature anomalies. I would expect those to turn colder in the days ahead, particularly for northern and central parts of Europe and eastern parts of Europe. I think we will see an increasingly cold trend to these charts in the coming days, and of course we'll be monitoring them day by day. Precipitation anomalies look like that, so still much drier than average for the UK and Ireland, but for central parts of Europe, much more unsettled, above average precipitation there. And as the atmosphere starts to get colder and colder, I think there will be a growing risk of wintry potential. This is how the GFS operational run is looking, then, starting on Thursday. So we're going to get a bit of a northerly snap tomorrow on Wednesday. By Thursday, the ridge is toppling in over top of the country. That will bring a lot of dry, quiet, settled weather, but with a fair amount of frost. Into Friday and next weekend, we find that high pressure pulls increasingly out into the Atlantic to the south-west of the UK, and that turns winds into a westerly. So it will be pretty mild over the weekend. Still a fair amount of dry weather for England and Wales. Always more unsettled for Scotland. Notice this trough digging in over Scandinavia, becoming colder across Scandinavia, and that cold air will eventually start to move into central parts of Europe as well. That's increasingly the trend through the course of next week. So we're a week away now, Monday the 14th. Sees high pressure again just out to our southwest. Winter really digging in across northern and central parts of Europe with that trough of below average heights. That's how we look as we move up towards day 10. Increasingly unsettled flavour to the charts. Low pressure heading in, bringing quite a bit of wet weather. And some turn wind into the north, so a little bit of a cold snap there on the 16th of January, not sustained. Winds back into west-southwest again by day 10. But for much of northern, central, and eastern Europe again, we see winter really digging in with those northerly winds and these troughs and areas of low pressure. In more extended range, the GFS starts to get very interesting because very gradually starts to raise heights to the north of the UK. So that's how we look by the 21st of January. Excuse me, I've still got this annoying cough from that bug I had before Christmas, and I've still got this tickly cough. Sorry about that. So, this is Monday 21st of January, and we're moving this low pressure into Central Europe. We're raising heights both to the north and to the west, starting to look a little bit more blocky. Winds are beginning to turn into the east. There might be some wintry potential there, and that's how we look by the end of the GFS run. Increasingly blocked, really. We're raising pressure across Scandinavia, up to 1,025 millibars. We're raising pressure also to the west and northwest of the UK, with the trough of low pressure sitting across central parts of Europe. There's the upper air temperatures, and they're very cold by this point. Most parts of Europe are locked into the freezer there on the 23rd of January, and that very cold air is beginning to back into France and parts of southeastern England as well. So increasingly cold and blocked with the GFS by the end of its run. It's a long way out. It's 2 weeks away. So it might be nothing, but it might be something. Have to keep a close eye on it. This is how the parallel GFS run is looking. So the parallel run will become the main operational run very shortly. High pressure again is sitting over the top of the country on Thursday before it pulls away to the southwest of us as we go into the weekend, and we drag in these mild winds from off the Atlantic, those west or southwesterlies. Through the course of next week, increasingly unsettled again. This high pressure that has been with us since Christmas, so it's a big change that's coming along next week, early next week. This high pressure is weakening very rapidly, allowing low pressure to head in from off the Atlantic, bringing our first proper bands of wet weather for a very long time. That's how we look at day 10, which is Thursday the 17th of January. Unsettled, low pressure is dominating from off the Atlantic, and relatively mild upper air temperatures, I would have thought, for the south, a little bit cooler up in the north. Look what the parallel run does as we go into the extended range. Move those low pressures to our east, ridges high pressure through the Atlantic and going up to Greenland, turns the winds into the north, and again, as we go to the very end of the GFS 6 o'clock parallel run, increasingly blocked, increasingly cold. That's a large amount of northern blocking that starts to appear there to the north of the UK, and it is extending back into the Arctic. That's genuine northern blocking that we've got there. The trough is sinking through central parts of Europe, and obviously we're pulling down cold or even very cold east to northeasterly winds. These are how the upper air temperatures are looking by Wednesday the 23rd of January. Again, most of Europe is locked into the freezer. Very cold upper air temperatures. Those very cold upper air temperatures would be starting to push towards the UK as well. So we've got both the operational and the parallel GFS in around 2 weeks' time, unleashing very cold conditions and much more blocked conditions as well, much more sustained cold conditions there. As I say, it's a really long way off. It's 2 weeks away, so it could be nothing. Or it could be what we've been waiting to see starting to emerge in modern output, which is a tropospheric response to the sun's stratospheric warming. We really can't say for sure at this stage, and we're just going to have to keep a close eye on it. This is how the ECMWF is looking. So again, high pressure is toppling over the country on Thursday. Go into the weekend with that high pressure increasingly pulling out to the west, southwest of the UK. So we bring around these mild, even very mild westerly winds from off the Atlantic. Into next week, increasingly unsettled as that high pressure moves further away from us. A little bit of a northerly snap there. Through the middle of next week. It won't be sustained, won't last for long. Here comes the southwesters again. Remember, with the ECM, we can only get to 10 days out. I can't show you the postage stamps today from the Icelandic Met Office because they haven't been updated there today. So up to day 10, we're Atlantic driven, no particular sign of northern blocking, and it looks like mild air is starting to push back in from the Atlantic. Remember, the change in the GFS operational parallel runs is just after day 10. It's around 276 to 300 hours. That's when it begins to get much more blocky look to it. So the ECM finishes just short of that. Unfortunately. Finally, we'll just have a look at CFS-V2. So these are the 500 kilowatt heights. So I broke it down into week periods. The first week period will take us from the 7th to the 13th of January with above average heights very close to the UK, maybe centred a little bit to our west, winter biting in the east and southeast of Europe in the week ahead. We're close to that ridge of high pressure, so it remains pretty dry and settled. Week 2 looks like this. It's the 14th to 20th of January. The trough is intensifying across northern Europe, so again, winter really biting across northern parts of Europe. That ridge of above average heights pulling further away from us into the middle of the North Atlantic, so we're probably pulling down pretty cold air already there from a northwesterly or possibly even northerly direction. That does look pretty cold, I would have thought, for week 2. And then week 3 looks like that, and it looks pretty cold and wintry. This below average heights across much of northern, central and western Europe, so low pressure is through there. The above average heights are out in the middle of the Atlantic, moving up towards Greenland and Iceland as well. The flow and the jet is going to be doing something a little bit like that, so it places us on the cold side of the jet stream, and we could well be pulling down cold air from the north or the northeast, with the trough of low pressure providing precipitation, which could be wintry. And then northern blocking, look at this, it's the 28th of January to the 3rd of February. High pressure centred right over the top of Greenland, below average heights underneath it, centred across the UK and Western Europe. Again, we'd be pulling in cold air into that trough of below average heights, that trough of low pressure. Cold air will be digging in from the north and from the northeast too. That looks wintry, I have to say. You would expect fairly significant snow, I would have thought, with that kind of setup. Let's have a look at the temperature anomalies. So week 1, temperature anomalies from the 7th to 13th of January. They're milder than average. Winter is over in the east and the southeast of Europe. Week 2, temperature anomalies have cooled down a little bit, but they're still above average in week 2 from the 14th to the 20th of January. But then in week 3, look at this, going colder than average in the UK. The temperature anomaly is going below average. Most parts of Europe also going colder than average in week 3. That's the 21st, 27th of January, and remaining colder than average into week 4 as well. So this, again, taking just the start of February, 28th of January to the 3rd of February, colder than average for the UK and Ireland, colder than average for most parts of Central Northern Europe as well. Winter finally gets unleashed in the second half of January with CFS V2. Precipitation anomalies for week ahead is much drier than average. Week 2 precipitation close to average, so it's a little bit more unsettled definitely in week 2 and not as mild as it is in week 1. That's week 3. It's the 23rd to 27th of January. This is going colder than average, of course. Precipitation is coming out average. You'll notice it's wetter than average to our south, and again with much colder than average temperatures. A lot of that would be snow engulfing many parts of Europe. And then week 4 is also looking very interesting with precipitation because it's above average, or hints at being above average through most parts of the west of Europe, Ireland, parts of Spain, and also in central parts of Europe. Again, with temperature normally cold and average and high pressure centred over Greenland, there's absolutely no reason why that wouldn't be snow as well as rain for southern parts of Europe, but certainly snow for more northern parts of Europe. So the hints are still there, I have to say, the hints are still there that we're going to get a tropospheric response to the stratospheric warming, blocking becoming increasingly apparent in the second half of January. Further on we go through January, the idea is still within the longer range model output anyway for blocking to increase, and just maybe the first hints within the GFS, which is something we've been waiting for quite a while. We'll go too over the top with that though at the moment, because it's only really today that started appearing. It's right in a very extended range, so the GFS may drop that very shortly in its model output, and we would need to go through the ensemble, see how much support it has. So GFS could be starting to pick up on these changes for the second half of January, but at the moment I wouldn't go too sort of over top with that. But has been a very significant warming of the stratosphere that we've had, of course, and I suspect there is plenty of time to get some sort of tropospheric response to this, and we will keep monitoring. I'll keep you updated, of course, day by day, and we'll just see how this unfolds. Right, that's it. Hope you found the video interesting and informative. We'll be back tomorrow with another week to 10 day video update. And of course, tomorrow we've got the first ECMWF 30-day ensemble forecast for the UK and Europe tomorrow from a Hungarian Met Office. Haven't done that for a couple of weeks due to Christmas and New Year. We'll be back tomorrow, so you'll see what the ECMWF is showing for the next month with its temperature and precipitation anomalies tomorrow. I guess this will be the first video up. That's all for now, and thanks for watching.